Nigel, we're just going to get straight to it because there's so much to talk about. And for this segment, we're going to be looking at reactive abuse, explaining to people what that means and looking at listener dilemmas. And then in the second part, we're going to look at healthy relationships. Not enough is said about healthy relationships. And Nigel, before all of that, I really want to talk with you about this particular area. Over to you, Nigel. Any thoughts on that story?
I would say that, first of all, some content creators online, they do clickbait or they do rage bait, as they say. So, they create content to get a reaction. However, I think in this case, the case you're talking about, I think his reaction was genuine, because his position was he does not date black women. That's his position. So it's a panel, it's a panel setup. So panel of women, panel of men. So this particular guy, he was saying he doesn't date black women. The black women on the panel challenged him, and then he lost it. Basically, he started saying to one woman, show me your hair, because she was wearing a weave. Show me your hair. Where's your hair? Take off your false eyelashes, etc., etc. So he was quite aggressive, to say the least. Interestingly, the podcast creator is a lady, and she said that she has removed this particular guy from the panel because she has a duty of care to women, which I found quite interesting. But yes, it has gone viral. He clearly lost the plot, put it like that.
So Nigel, do you think if he just said like he dated other races of women and he wasn't challenged, black men can date who they want to date? So I'm asking you, if they didn't challenge him, I'm wondering what the challenge looks like, because some people sent me that video. I didn't see all of it. I saw the part where he, like you say, he did lose his temper there. You can tell he was triggered. But in terms of black women, and this is where I stand with this, challenging a man because he doesn't date black women, to me there's a conversation around that, because he can date who he wants to date. Social media posts with black ladies complaining about why black men date other races of women, because I just wonder whether if they didn't challenge him, whether he would have just say it in a different way. He would have just, but the whole attack, the attack on black women in their hair. Do you see a lot of that on social media, Nigel?
Social media is a big playing field, so it depends what you're looking for. But I would say that whoever someone decides to date, it's their personal preference. It's simple as that. So it's a very short conversation for me, because everyone's at liberty to date who they wish. Now, what I do have a problem with is when someone, regardless of their race, when someone dates outside their race and then starts putting down their own race. That I have a problem with. For me, when I went to secondary school, so my infants and juniors, my school friends or the school population was majority white. There was only like maybe 3 black children in the whole school, myself being one of them. When I went to secondary school, I met more black people. So by the time I was like 13, 14, my preference was black women. However, my parents got divorced, and then we got shipped off to a council estate, and say there was 12 black guys there of my age, 14, 15, but their preference was white women. So, but I came to the conclusion as a teenager, because I'm very observant, I said, well, this is the environment they've grown up in, so therefore this is what they prefer. Fair enough. It's no preference at the end of the day. So, as I said, I have got no problem. People can date who they want.
Absolutely.
I just find it distasteful when someone dates outside their race and then they start putting down their own race. I don't like that.
When the real victim looks like the villain. So explain to people listening who might not know what reactive abuse is, Nigel.
Okay. So basically, reactive abuse is when someone deliberately provokes somebody else until they snap. So the other person reacts, usually out of character. And then the person who started it all in the first place plays a victim, like, oh, I don't know why you're upset, or I don't know what I said. So basically it's a manipulation tactic. At the end of the day, it's manipulation, because what they're doing, they will flip the narrative. So say you're in a conversation with someone and you say something they don't like, and then they start to abuse you verbally, and then you respond. So they're shouting at you, so you decide to shout back. Then they'll start crying or playing the victim, basically. Okay. So when then a third party, so if a third party walks in and sees the aggressor all upset and crying, they're going to assume you're the villain, you're the one who's caused the problem, because they haven't seen what's led up to your reaction.
Yes, they don't see the before, they're only seeing the after.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And there are people out here who are being picked on relentlessly, and they're saying that they are made to look like they're the ones causing the trouble. So it's reactive abuse only when you react in terms of mirroring the other person, so you're only reacting aggressively. If someone reacts in a different way that's not aggressive, is it still considered reactive abuse, because the word abuse is in there?
Reactive abuse is based on someone being pushed beyond their limit, and everyone's got a limit. I don't care how nice and calm a person is, everyone has a limit. I'm a very calm person, but I've got my limit. Not to say necessarily I'm going to be abusive back, because there are tactics that I understand. I know how to deal with abusive people, and the best way to deal with abusive people is not to play their game, basically. So if that means walking away, ignoring them, etc., that's probably your best bet, because if you engage in a tit for tat of abuse, it's just going to spiral. Anyway, it's not going to be a constructive conversation. And you need to understand why people do that type of tactic, because really it's to destabilize the other person. It's to get them emotional, because once you're emotional, you don't think logically. That's why it's always important. Once you get emotional, you're not thinking rationally. So therefore, you lose train of your thought, and you lose your focus on the point you're trying to make, and you get drawn into this tit for tat abuse, and it's just not constructive.
Yes. What you said there, Nigel, one of our listeners in past shows did say that they became confused. They found themselves jumbled. They knew that they were in the right, and they found themselves reacting and starting to get all jumbled and all panicky because of the other person's relentless abuse towards them. So that can happen during the exchange.
But that's the point. As the Americans would say, it's designed to take you off your game, basically. It's a form of deflection. And also, if there are third parties involved, it makes a person who's been initially abused, it makes them look bad, makes them look like they're the ones who's the bad person. And that could involve friends, it could involve family members, it could even involve law enforcement. So say, for example, you've got a couple, and say the woman is being abusive to the man, verbally abusive, or even physically abusive. So he becomes verbally abusive in response. Then the female partner calls the police, and the police arrive, and she's crying and upset and distressed. Now, as far as the police are concerned, the guy is going to look like the bad person in the situation, because of social stereotypes as well. Because obviously men are bigger, stronger, etc., etc. Those scenarios happen all the time. And then if the law is involved, then obviously you get into legal situations. If there's children involved, you get involved in custody disputes. The instigator could even record. They won't record what they've done, but they might record what you've done, or they might record the whole thing, and then just edit out their part when they're being the aggressor, and just keep the part where the person responding is responding aggressively, but that doesn't look like the bad person.
I was thinking videos, because a gentleman had said that online that the lady videoed his response. So everyone was looking at his response, but they didn't know what led up to his response. Even though he was angry, he said that there was a lot of provocation, but we didn't get to see that part. So while you were talking, I was thinking, videos, they would just perhaps record just a section of it, so that it would look like this person is the aggressor. And also another headline is debate, so you addressed this already, people deliberately provoking a person to seek a negative response from them so that they can say to others, look how this person is behaving towards me. A lot like narcissism in there. Yeah.
Well, there is, it's funny you mentioned narcissism, because a saying for people who like studying narcissism is that narcissists can dish it out, but they can't take it. And I've found that true to be in my life as well. So they're very good at dishing out the insults, etc., etc. But as soon as you snap back, suddenly they're the victim, and oh, poor me, and how dare you speak to me like that. So they think they can speak to other people as they wish. But when someone responds in a similar fashion, it's a problem for them. So when you look at like emotional baiting, that's what you touched on earlier. Yeah. So emotional baiting, you're being, the person is trying to bait you, basically. They're trying to draw you into an argument. And usually they're trying to draw you into an argument because their actual position in the debate or disagreement is very weak. So they deflect. So they try and deflect, distract, start throwing insults, and saying you're this, saying you're that.
Yes.
But as you said, the lady said that they were confused. But that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to confuse a person. So you need to understand how to deal with that. And there's a method called the BIFF method. That's BIFF. If you're dealing with someone who's being unreasonable, so basically the BIFF means like keep your responses brief, and stick to the point, and be firm but friendly. But as I said, the best way to deal with someone who's being rude is just to disengage. Because at the end of the day, what if you're dealing with someone who's unreasonable, you're not going to get a constructive outcome. You're just not. So instead of going on this merry-go-round with them, you're exchanging insults, and then things get heated, and then it gets more heated, you're better off just saying, you know what, let me just step away from this, because it's just a waste of time.
One of our listeners over time has shared, because they're dealing with a particular situation, really frustrating for them. They're no longer taking the bait, but they're feeling really sad about the situation, because the other person that's targeting them constantly for arguments, constantly trying to make them look like they are the aggressor, and they go into the same space because there's a person in common that they both love. So that's why the person doesn't stay away from that environment. But when they do go into the environment, the other party's constantly picking on them and trying to make it look like they are the troublemaker. That's really tough. It's really tough out there sometimes.
Well, it's tough, but I've been in exactly the same situation with my family. So I commend the person for sticking in there, but then I would suspect that's to do with family loyalty. Because obviously when you're a family, there's family loyalties, there's family dynamics, etc., etc. In my situation, I just walked away because I said, I can't be dealing with this, family or no family, because my attitude is, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a friend. I don't care if it's a family member. No one has the right to abuse me. It's as simple as that.
Welcome each and everyone. Welcome Supreme Radio, the inspirational community radio station. We continue with our conversation with Nigel Beckles. Before the break, Nigel started to share with regards to his own experience, which we really appreciate in this space because it's about true stories. So organically, Nigel shared, and we're going to continue the conversation. If you would like to interact, the number is... So let's continue with the segment. Nigel Beckles, author of How to Avoid Making the Big Relationship Mistakes. Thanks, Nigel, for joining us. Thanks so much, and for sharing. We appreciate it.
No problem at all.
But Nigel, you continue.
Your listener who, from what you said, has an abusive family member, and she keeps going back. So we were talking about
back to the space.
Yeah, back to the space.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, yes, I understand I understand what she's going through because I've been through it. And you need to understand at the end of the day, when you look at it realistically. Now, if you say someone's being abusive and insulting towards you, and they're not a relative, they are not a family member, would you tolerate it? Probably not. But because it's a family member or a relative, and there's this concept of loyalty, family loyalty, people will put up with it. So they will put up with abuse because it's a family member. So, and my question is, and why? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't make any sense. In fact, you're probably causing yourself more damage by engaging. So your options are either to limit engagement or to go no contact. My choice was go no contact. It's a decision for the person involved. If you're going to keep re-engaging in a situation that is emotionally damaging to you, whether it's a family member or partner or ex-partner, it's like, well, you know, self-preservation. You have to look after yourself. So that's why boundaries are very important. Maintaining healthy personal boundaries, regardless of who the person may be.
Yes, that's an interesting point there, because people tend to stick with it because it's a family member. But like you said, if it's someone you don't know, not related to, would you still put up with the ongoing abuse? One of our listeners shared previously that's relentless abuse, difficult to even deal with the person, difficult to enter the space, and the person will just start blowing up for no reason and making it seem like they are doing something. So really, they've been distressed for years with regards to the behaviour of their relative. So what you said there, willing that the listener is tuned in today and can take something from that, Nigel, definitely.
Yeah, I hope so too. Been there, done that.
Yeah, we appreciate you sharing. Nigel, before we continue with the healthy relationships, is there anything you'd like to say? Just checking in with you, how you're feeling right now, just checking in.
In terms of the topic under discussion, I would say if you're dealing with someone who is very disagreeable, to put it politely, you need to set boundaries, and you can also use timeouts. So if it's getting heated, disengage, leave the room, or take a pause on the call. Because all those techniques are to de-escalate the situation. Yeah. And then there's another personality trait called high conflict people, HCP, but that's a conversation for another day, because some people are just wired like that. They just like conflict, so you're better off if you encounter someone like that, you're better off just not engaging.
Yes, that's what they said. The particular person is definitely conflict driven and just almost addicted to it.
Yeah,
that's what it seems like to them.
Yeah, yes. because they get a rush from it, basically. That in terms of hormones and stuff, they get a hormone rush, and then they also can feel, if they feel they've won the conflict in inverted commas, then that gives them a rush. They feel powerful, they feel dominant, etc. But it's very destructive. Very destructive.
It is. And having these conversations, knowing that it does help people out there. I do reflect on the gentleman who heard your story before with regards to, we talked about, I know it's you share publicly a particular story, and the gentleman ever since has said it's helped him with regard to navigating his situation. So I'm just celebrating and keep saying thanks to special guests like yourself who come on the show, whether people share personal information or not, just coming on the show and just making use of this special space here on Supreme Radio UK Black Men Talk Show. So thanks again, Nigel, for just being a returning special guest that we really appreciate, definitely.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on. It's always a good time.
Absolutely, it really is. So Nigel, I just want to touch on, for the remaining time, on healthy relationships. What you would say a healthy relationship looks like, and perhaps the benefits of a healthy relationship. Healthy relationship, what does that look like?
Well, a healthy relationship is based on mutual respect. In a nutshell, I mean, if you don't have mutual respect in any type of relationship, there's going to be a problem. There are going to be challenges. So for me, mutual respect is the key to relationships. I mean, people make there's lots of relationship content out there, and it depends how deep you want to dive in. But as Albert Einstein said, the famous scientist, he said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it properly. So it's good to go and have a deep dive and do what you got to do. But especially doing something like this when we're trying to impart important information over a limited period of time. Just get to the point. That's my attitude at the end of the day.
Yes, I'm with you, Nigel. So I'm just going to share some areas and just for your response. In terms of phone calls, we talked about this previously. In terms of phone calls, the amount of phone calls a day from your partner, some people say, well, I don't need to hear from the partner that amount of times a day, particularly somebody you've just met. So would you say there's an unhealthy amount of calls that people are making each day to the same person? Just in general,
well,
Nigel, any thoughts?
Yeah, but we've known each other a while, Annz, and I generally don't like generalizations because it's all about the context. So
yes,
if you've met someone for the first time and you're dating and they're calling you every day, bit over the top, but understandable. Now, if you've been with your partner for a period of time, then maybe you won't be talking or making phone calls as much. If you're living together, then you might call your partner at lunchtime. How's your day been? But you're going to see each other in the evening anyway.
In regards to identity, now the importance of, and this is not general, the importance of maintaining your own identity in a relationship, they say, can reduce misunderstandings. So, Nigel, if a new partner said to you, Nigel, going out tonight, and she wants you to wear matching colours, is that a red flag for you? Nigel's laughing.
Oh dear. Or what would Simon Cowell say? A fellow Libra, because I'm a Libra. It's a no from me.
Okay.
Matching colours.
A no from Nigel was direct on that one, wasn't he? Just in matching colours. Some people find that to be comfortable. Some people find it uncomfortable.
Okay. If it's
matching colours, any thoughts out there?
Well, okay. If it's an event, you get these events. Oh, wear something white or wear something red. Okay, in that context, well, okay, fair enough. We're going to be wearing red, or we're going to be wearing white. But if it's just like we're going out on a normal function, and my partner says to me, "Oh, I want us to wear matching colours." No. I'm not in a cabaret. No, we're not doing that.
No, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it because I looked on it's a reputable website with regards to looking at relationships. So there's all this information, like you said, out there regarding relationships, and we're here to promote and here to really champion healthy relationships. So there's a list of things. We can't go through it all today. I'm just going to share some of it with you because they said in terms of someone saying no to dressing the same, for example, they said in every area you should be able to bend a little for your partner and compromise and never say no. Any thoughts on that?
Well, okay. So I say no, and then she's going to say, well, why? And I'm going to say, well, because I don't want to feel like I'm in a cabaret. And why do you want to dress in matching colours? She would have to justify it to me. It would have to make sense to me. Why do you want to dress in matching colours to go out to an event? And if she gave me a reasonable explanation that I thought was okay, she might just say, "Oh, well, make me happy, Nige." I might be all right then. And I'm not going to be over the top. Yes. So she wants me to wear something red. I might have a red hanky in the top pocket of my jacket, for example, or something subtle, because I like subtle anyway. Anyway, that's an interesting concept.
It is, and it's cool what you said, because you would actually ask her. So that's good. That's communication. You're asking. You're not just shutting her down. You're asking why, and that's really cool. So just a statement. Just going through these statements. Can you be in a relationship with someone who contradicts what you stand for? So you like the lady, but there's certain things that she is about that's not for you, but you are probably physically attracted to her. You get on with her, but then something happens and she's not the woman you thought she was. Would you bend on that? Is there like a red flag?
I would say you can get involved with someone who doesn't have the same values as you, but you're going to have a lot of conflict because you're going to be disagreeing on a whole range of issues or certain issues that are important. I cover that in my first book. It's very important to have similar values and goals with a partner because I know things have to be discussed. That the problem with a lot of relationships is that both parties take certain things for granted. Then they get into the relationship and then down the road they start to discover issues cropping up. But if they'd had the conversation before they got in too deep, they wouldn't be in that situation. So for example, say you've got two people of faith. So you've got a Christian, you've got a Muslim, and they get together, they start a relationship, everything's going well, then they decide to get married. Then one party wants the child or children to be raised as Christian, the other person wants their child or children to be raised as Muslim. So conflict. But if they had that conversation prior to getting in that deep, it wouldn't, then it would be a non-issue, because if you disagree on fundamental issues and you discover that before you get involved too far, then you can make the decision to bail. But when you've got like a shared life, a mortgage, living together, children, and then you start falling out or having arguments about values, that's a big issue. And that's why certain relationships fail, because there's a mismatch in values. But the problem often is they haven't had a conversation. And by the time they do have a conversation, then they turn into like major disagreements.
And that leads me on to, Nigel, there are signs, they say, that you are in an unhealthy relationship. To people who say their relationship is fiery, it's passionate, they argue a lot, they fight a lot, it's still healthy. Now, they're not referring to mild debates, they're referring to big screaming matches, but then they make up. It's unhealthy.
Well, that's an old idea, isn't it? It's like passionate arguments, disagreements, and then you have good make-up, sex. Is it healthy in the long term? I don't think so. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of being with someone and you're having these fiery disagreements? And it depends on what the word fiery means. Because at the end of the day, fiery can be like insults flying around, negative behavior, basically. So if that's happening on a consistent basis, is that healthy? I don't think so. Some people like it, but then again, that's my temperament. I can disagree with someone without being rude. But, some people, they enjoy that. But whether it's got a long-term shelf life as a relationship, I think is debatable.
Another area, Nigel, before we conclude, the listening. We talked about dating, people going out on a date, a new person, and someone sharing with you. Now, the gentleman talked about the lady sharing for 2 hours. She was sharing about her problems. According to he should have listened to her. He was not happy about her sharing about her problems throughout the entire date. And he said he's not going to go on another date unless she gets some help. She needs to talk to a therapist, a professional, a coach, talk to someone. And some people disagree and think he should have not said that to her. She said he doesn't care. She reacted negatively to him. Any thoughts on that?
My thought is, I agree with him, because a lot of people go into relationships looking for unpaid therapy, whether consciously or unconsciously. Now, everyone's got a certain degree of baggage. Depends how much baggage they've got. I agree with him, because whatever her problems may be, he's not a qualified therapist, I would assume. If he's going to indulge in that type of conversation, all he can do is give her his personal opinion or sit there quietly. But I do agree with him, because what he has done, he has demonstrated a boundary. And some people don't like boundaries. But he said, no, this is not what I signed up for. I don't find it comfortable. I don't find it acceptable. So you need to go and talk to someone who can actually help you. Because he's acknowledging he can't help, because he's not equipped to help. And that's being honest.
This conversation is going to continue. Nigel, we are out of time. Nigel Beckles is out there on all major platforms, everyone. Thanks so much, Nigel.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Nigel, for joining us.